You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Buckler and my guest today is Greg Campbell. Now, Greg's the owner of a business called MITS Health, and the MITS stands for Managed IT Services. So we're going to have a chat about what Greg does and, in a broader sense, about IT services for those of you who are running practice rooms and consulting rooms. I think this will be of great interest. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Greg.
Thanks a lot, Wayne. Great to be here.
Now, Greg, start us off by telling us a bit about MITS Health and your business. What is it that you do?
So I basically help medical practices with their IT systems. Most of my clients run systems like Medical Director, Best Practice, Genie, or ZMed, so their GP practices, and that's the software that they generally run as their patient management system. And our job is to manage their servers, their computers, their printers, networks, and internet connections and so on, and everything that software depends on. So I see my role as being the interface between the technology and the practice owners and managers, and help them make the right decision and ensure that everything's implemented to align with their overall strategy and goals.
Now, given that practices these days are very heavily dependent on their IT systems, it's not just something for the accounting anymore. It's a critical part of the business process and the clinical process for a practice. What's the difference between what you do and ringing up the local computer shop when you've got a problem?
Exactly. Well, you're right. Things have changed so much. My wife's a pediatrician. We were just talking about this a couple of days ago, how much the practice of medicine has changed in the last, even in the last 10 years. Has been a huge change. And you're right, people, businesses are so incredibly reliant on their IT, and if something goes wrong, it really does just shut the practice down. So you're right. And the difference is, I guess, the sort of relationship that I have with my clients is I see myself as a trusted partner to my clients, and I really take responsibility for managing their IT for them. And I guess the difference is between that and the corner shop or a local IT company that you call when things break, is that the responsibility still lies with the practice to make sure that things are running okay. And you really just go to the IT company when things are broken. And so the incentive for them is not to keep things running, but they're actually doing well when things break. Whereas the way that I run my business and the way that managed service providers like my business manage their business is that the incentive is to keep things running, and we do well when things are running well.
And the two paradigms here are called break, fix, and managed services. So you're in the managed service end of that spectrum. The break, fix people, as the name says.
I was going to say MSP for short.
And the break, fix people, as the name suggests, get called in when something's broken. In terms of cost, what's the difference?
Well, it makes it easier for budgeting as well, because the way that a managed service provider sets up their cost structure, you generally pay a fixed monthly fee that, as much as possible, is all-inclusive. So when it comes to budgeting, you can plan ahead and say, okay, I know my IT costs are going to be X because this is what we've contracted. Whereas with a break fix, you're kind of sitting around waiting. If things are going to break, then the cost hits you, or if you have some sort of a virus or security problem that you have to bring in the IT guys, the costs go up. But generally with a managed service provider, those things are included in the monthly fee that you'd pay. So it certainly works out easier for planning and budgeting, and certainly in the long term, from my perspective, for the practices, it's going to work out more cost effective too.
Now, in bigger IT establishments, if we're talking about a hospital, that's pretty much always going to be a managed service, because they're often going to have their own internal IT departments and so on and so forth. Is there a size at which break fix gives way to managed services, or is it just always a good idea to have that maintenance approach and the managed service approach if IT is critical in your business? Yeah,
that's a good point. I think that for a very small business, when you've just got a single practitioner doing a bit of consulting and just carting around their laptop. In that case, it's often not really necessary to have a managed service provider. But anything bigger than that, I think people benefit from having a good relationship and a strong relationship that comes with a managed service provider and somebody that you can just trust to ring up and help when you need to, talk about the plans for the business. So all except for the very smallest, I think it's useful to have a managed service provider instead of having that break-fix relationship.
Now, many of our audience, Greg, are clinicians. About 95%, I think, are clinicians. What's the takeaway message that you'd like them to take today as a result of having a chat?
Well, I think that the single message is to understand the value of a managed services provider. To know that when you get into a relationship with a managed service provider, you're getting into a relationship with a trusted partner, somebody who can be proactive and work alongside you to make sure that all your technology is going to be working to fit in with your overall strategy for the business. And someone who can take responsibility for making things work well, not only for avoiding viruses and those sorts of basic things, but going a little bit wider, making sure that you're compliant with the various standards and legal requirements, because that's certainly not an easy part. And also taking value of the other things that managed services providers can provide. One thing that people might not know, Wayne, is that managed service providers can also bundle in hardware and software as a service. So you might, just depending on how you've got your business set up, might be able to benefit from some of the things that managed service providers give, such as having the servers, workstations, printers, networking equipment, all as part of the overall package, so that you don't have to buy that stuff up front and you don't have to even own it. And that works really well for a lot of businesses.
You're listening to Health Professional Radio. My name is Wayne Buckler. I'm in conversation with Greg Campbell of MITS Health. We've been talking about the pros and cons of managed services in clinical practices for the IT system. Greg, in every industry there are misconceptions, and it's my favourite question. What's the biggest misconception amongst your customers and clients that drives you nuts and keeps you awake at night?
Well, it's a tricky one. I would be cautious about saying that any of my clients drive me nuts, because they're all very clever and talented individuals. But I think it's this thing where being an IT professional, I see IT as being a really important part of any business, and of course that's easy for me to understand. And I think the thing that frustrates me is when some business owners don't see the value in their IT. I look at a business and I see the technology as kind of underpinning the business and making sure that people can achieve their goals and achieve business continuity and make the business run really well. And a lot of people look at their technology and take this 80s mindset that, oh gosh, there's a cost that we need to fork out some money and spend money on our IT. And I wish we didn't have to spend money on this, but it's just something that we've got to do. So let's just do it as cheaply as we can. So I guess that's the thing that I see people doing that, and I kind of think, I wish that you could see the value that investing wisely in IT can bring to the business, and how it can be something that helps your business be the best that it can be, rather than just a cost. Well, I hope that we can.
It does make sense, and I used to often, in the old days, explain networking in terms of water and pipes and sewage systems, and I think that computer systems are still a bit like toilets in an office. When they're working well, you don't want to know anything about them, and you want them as cheaply as possible. When they're not working, it makes an awful mess, and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
And you'll do anything at that point to get it sorted out.
Yes. Any price is perfectly acceptable. You realise its value only when it stops working.
Uh-huh.
Greg, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today on Health Professional Radio. For those people who have just missed my chat with Greg Campbell of MITS Health, we have a transcript on our website. We also have an audio archive on SoundCloud, and you can find it on YouTube as well. Our website's www.hpr.fm. We should make mention that if you want to get hold of Greg, you can get hold of him through his website at www.mitshealth.com.au. Greg, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
This is Wayne Buckler for Health Professional Radio.